there is a gap there, a gap in terms of information, which the doctors are then, I say doctors, there's nurses, psychologists, pharmacists, all sorts of different healthcare professionals on the platform. They are trying to plug that gap. And actually,
and we're live. Today we have with us Vishaal Virani, who's the head of UK Health at YouTube. If you're joining us for the first time, we're the Bay HQ, and we're all about helping British Asians to succeed. This lab podcast was focusing on a particular topic, and for this episode, it's about how experts can start and grow on YouTube. So this is a topic that Vishaal is very passionate about. So Vishaal, why is this the topic you picked? Why is this so important to you?
Well, I mean, this is what I've been living and breathing for the last couple of years. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So we are growing a community of what we call clinician creators on YouTube. So healthcare professionals who have so much expertise that they are sharing with their patients one-to-one on a daily basis, and then taking that expertise to YouTube so that they can provide that same information, those same insights at scale to the entire YouTube viewership within the UK, but also globally. And the reality is there is a massive dearth of that expert health content out there. And I would say it's probably similar for other topics as well, where you have anyone and everyone can talk about health, can talk about a particular health condition. But there are very few people who are properly qualified. And so what we're trying to do is bring those really qualified folks out of their shell, get them onto the platform, get them creating content, figuring out which topics to focus on, helping them to become more engaging with the audiences. And so, that's something that I think has a lot of value for them as individuals, but also for the audiences.
And like you said, because I think traditionally, back in the day, people thought on YouTube, it's the people who are willing to be silliest or have, say, the biggest personalities, they're going to do the best. But like you said, sometimes this can create content where it's not actually as useful for the listeners as it should be, the watchers as it should be. And even from like a personal perspective, it's really great to know that companies like YouTube are doing that, because I want the information I watch on YouTube to be relevant and be by experts, right? And like you said, a lot of experts, you said about them coming out of their shell. And I see it now quite often where a lot of experts, maybe they think like, oh, I know what I'm talking about, but I'm not that kind of person who would get on YouTube. I'm not the kind of person who has that kind of gravitas. And with the people you work with, what's that kind of common journey, right? Is it people who really want to go on YouTube, or is it more almost the thing of a mission-based ideal, where it's like they know that their message should be out there and they can help a lot of people? Where does the average person come from, the average expert? What's their motivations?
So I would say there's probably in the health field specifically, from what I've seen, there's a couple of motivations. One is definitely the point you made about having an impact, being able to share the information that they have, that they know, with others at scale. And so, that is addressing a problem that they see day to day in their clinics, where they only get this sort of 10 minutes, 15 minutes with their patient. They can't possibly cover everything about their topic. So then typically what a doctor will do will be like, well, here's a link to the NHS website, or here's a leaflet, go away and read that. Or if they were feeling very generous, they might say, oh, why don't you book another appointment with me? But hey, when you call the receptionist and try and do that, you realize it's going to be 2 months before you're seeing that doctor again. So, there is a gap there, a gap in terms of information, which the doctors are then, I say doctors, there's nurses, psychologists, pharmacists, all sorts of different healthcare professionals on the platform. They are trying to plug that gap. And actually, I think a lot of doctors and healthcare professionals get into the business of healthcare because they want to help people. And so they can now do this at scale. So I think that motivates them, but it's also a creative outlet. So, you don't get to be that creative in medicine. The guidelines are the guidelines. You got your protocols. If this medicine has been approved, then you use it. Otherwise, you don't. You don't go off-piste. Whereas when you're on YouTube, obviously the advice that you're giving, the kind of healthcare expertise is very much strictly adhering to the guidelines, but the manner in which you deliver it. So the formats, you might use animations, you might use a voiceover approach, you might go for a short where there's lots of different visuals popping up on the screen. You might have a fully silent video with music playing, and you're kind of dancing the advice. And there's all sorts of different things that are out there that the health creators are experimenting with on the platform. And I think that sense of creativity that they get being on the platform for them is very exciting. It breaks up the day job. But ultimately, we can get into this more later. There is, of course, massive value. Their presence on YouTube does ultimately lead to some incredible opportunities off platform for them. And so as they get bigger and bigger on YouTube, I think that then becomes more of a motivating factor for them. It's like, okay, now that I've built my brand, built my presence on YouTube, how can I leverage that?
Let's say somebody listening right now is thinking about, like, I want to start on YouTube. I'm an expert in a specific area. I know that I can add value, but they're scared of getting that first video out there. What would you advise them? Like, how do you think is the best idea for people to just get started and just get the reps in there at the beginning?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things I'll say. First is you really need to figure out, probably there's three things. First is you need to figure out why you're doing it. So just like anything else in life, you're starting a business, you're going to go and take a new job, start a family, whatever it is. There has to be a rationale for why you are doing it. And so, listing out the 2 or 3, I wouldn't have loads of objectives, but maybe the 1, 2 or 3 objectives you have for being on YouTube. The things that will motivate you or sustain you on those really difficult days when you've just spent 3-4 hours creating, editing a video, upload it, and 1 week later, 2 people have viewed it. So you really need to nail that down from the start. I think the second thing is you really need to figure out what your niche is going to be. What's your angle? What are you going to talk about? And what we always talk about is your spiky, your kind of, what's your spiky area? The area where you're just so good and sharp that you stand out from everyone else, basically. And so you then want to double down on that because there is a lot of content on YouTube. There are a lot of creators out there. And so you want to sort of figure out exactly what you are an expert in and can deliver really high quality content on. And then the third thing is just get out there and start experimenting. So the beauty of it is if it's not very good, no one's going to watch it. So it doesn't really matter either way. When it starts getting good, then people will watch it. And then you're like, oh, it's getting good. People are watching it. And then you do more and more and you get even better and better. So actually, it's a really nice kind of welcoming environment that way. The reality is people are not out to get you when you make your first video. They don't even have a clue that you exist on the platform. So I think you have an opportunity with your first 5, 10, 15 videos to really sort of experiment with the lighting, with the audio, with the type of room that you're doing this in, the exact format of content that you're going with. So definitely it's a real opportunity, which you don't get in other walks of life always, to just put some stuff out there and see what sticks, what doesn't, and you're not going to be causing any harm either way. There are a lot of resources on the YouTube website that you can have a look at. I think if you type in like YouTube creators, there's a creator website. Then I'll tell you a couple of channels which are really useful. So there's a channel called Creator Insider, and then there's also, I believe, a channel called YouTube Creators. So both of those are really good channels run by YouTube. And so, and the other thing is that you could just start connecting with other creators. A lot of them make their information available via the About page. You could just reach out to them. The thing you'll realize is that as a YouTube creator, it's quite a lonely existence. So when people reach out to you and they're like, well, can we chat? I'm also working on a similar topic or similar channel ideas. Let's meet up and discuss. And people will be like, oh my God, this is exciting, because unlike when you're into football or you're into music, you get to meet people at the concert, you get to meet people at a match. It just doesn't happen with the YouTube creator world. So yeah, just reach out to people as well. That would be my advice for getting started.
And let's say some people got started and their first few videos haven't done so well, and they're like, oh, like you said, there's those hard days of like, why am I even bothering? Should I continue? What are some of the mistakes you see people often make at those early days? They maybe get somewhat down the wrong path, and if they correct those, then obviously it doesn't necessarily lead to instant results, but it just gives them a better opportunity to potentially get the viewership or the audience that they're hoping for.
There are some real fundamentals that you do need to get right. And I know I said you can experiment with things like lighting and audio, and it's true, but very quickly you need to learn, what works. So lighting is critical, actually. It doesn't take a lot. So I'm not talking about lots of expensive resources here. I am talking about having the light in the right place. So, if you need, if you've got a room with really nice natural light, that is your perfect solution. If not, figure out a room where you can put some simple ring lights in as needed. Then I think audio is critical as well. You can buy a £10, £15 microphone, plug it into your phone, and you are good to go. You could even use your phone, to be honest. But microphone audio I think is really useful. Ironically, video, the actual filming equipment's less important. The vast majority of people when they're getting started will use their phone. And actually, you'll see some really big YouTubers who are still using their phone. The benefit of the phone is it's always with you, so you can create content on the go. And actually, that's some of the most compelling content when people are like, oh my God, something really interesting has just happened, and I want to tell you guys about it. So I would say that the informal style works really well on YouTube. People are not necessarily looking for that polished production quality, TV quality finish. They're looking for someone who's a little bit more relatable, who is saying that, this is just what's on my mind, and I felt like I needed to sit down and tell you guys. So you get the lighting right, get the audio right. Use your phone camera to start with if you like, and then it's little things like framing. Make sure the framing's good, so make sure that you are in the middle of the screen. Then the other things I will say is that thinking about the background music, if you're going to have, that's really important. So on Shorts, we've got a huge library of music that you can use license free, and so we've sort of covered all the licensing requirements for that. And so that is one thing to think about. What is trending music right now? So there's that, and then think about the visuals as well. How do you make the video pop? So you have a really nice intro screen. You have some visual elements that reinforce the key points that you're making. I think that's important. And then the last thing I will say is really pay attention to the data. So there's a wealth of data you get in your YouTube studio. So you can look at the exact point in which different people are dropping off from your videos. So you can see the click-through rate on your thumbnails. So if it's not working, try a slightly different thumbnail design. You can see how people are reaching your content. There's certain search terms that they're using that are clearly very popular and driving people to your content. You can see all the comments that people are leaving on your videos. And so all of these things together, as well as a wealth of other data that you'll see in your back end, will start to paint a picture of what's working, what isn't. But ultimately, you probably need a critical mass of 20, 30 videos before you can start digging into the data, because you need to see these few videos worked, but these didn't. And so experimenting with different formats is really important. And shorts, how can I not mention shorts? I mean, I guess everyone's talking about shorts and TikTok, etc. these days, but it is a really good way to get started because there are even lower barriers to entry. You can literally use your phone end to end for everything on your phone via the YouTube app. You can create so many nice green screens, so many visuals, layer on the music and very quickly create quite a compelling video as a short. So that's a really good way to start, and then you can move on to longer form content afterwards.
It's interesting there, as you said, because obviously, like, I've now made hundreds of YouTube videos, but it'd be interesting to see if you looked at the channel, if you're like, oh, they've done that bad, they've done that bad, like, what amateur? So it's always interesting to see because there's always levels you can learn. And say, for example, the thumbnails is that we're changing our thumbnail style pretty soon. So what happens, I think sometimes people don't realize, but I think sometimes people model their content over people ahead of them. But for example, where I am is that I'm resource strained. So I might not be doing things in the optimum way, even though I know better, just because I don't have the time or the energy to do that right now. And I think that's one of the things I always tell people to be careful about. Is like, look at what other people are doing, but don't think that they're doing things in a certain way and that's why it's working. And just try and understand the logic behind it. Like, what? Okay, a few channels are doing it this way. Why is that as well? Because sometimes you'll see like different podcast channels, for example, that have similar kind of thumbnails. So it's like, what's the psychology behind that? Why are they all doing that? And so let's say for health content, right? And being an expert in that area is once you've got that little bit of a massive audience, or even like the beginning massive an audience, right? Do you find a lot of people in the health space or like, I guess, other experts, they're initially using their clients or their customers or in patients in terms of health? Or how do they get that initial traction? Is it they put it into the void and hope for the best? Or where are they getting that initial user base from?
Yeah. And so just before I address that, we're going to do another podcast where I'm going to mark your channel. We're going to see what's going on, what is on your channel. No, but just your point that you made about imitation, it's a really good point because actually so many of the most successful YouTubers out there have basically iterated on what is already working. So still with pride in a way. Now, put your own spin on it for sure, but there is a lot of value to seeing what is already working on the platform. There's such a wealth of data just by searching different videos. Once you figured out your niche, you say, okay, who's already in my niche? Because someone will be, right? You can't just like when you're starting a sort of new product idea, someone's going to be there already.
Somebody listening, but I'm the only person who makes videos about this, and this.
Right, yeah. I mean, I'd be impressed. Let me know if you think you're the only one. But look what other people are doing, and yeah, absolutely test it out. And we've got this A/B testing or for thumbnails feature coming out soon, which will be really helpful. You're talking about how you're going to be updating your thumbnails. So I think that there are ways and means of doing a lot of experimentation on the platform and using the data to drive the decision making that for yourself. So in terms of how people get started and that traction, so to be honest, it's not like other things where you should necessarily tell a few people to follow you to start with because it helps you gain traction, because ultimately you're then just in this vacuum where those people are not going to be very engaged, because what they're going to do is they're going to have subscribed to your channel, they're going to watch one or two videos. It's clear they're not going to have a very high retention, because they're probably just like, oh, let me tick the box, this guy said my friend said I need to click on the video, I'm going to watch it for a bit, and that's it, job done, because they're not actually interested in that topic. And YouTube will pick up on those signals. We'll see what the percentage retention rate is on a particular video and be like, oh, that's not very good, we're not going to continue to suggest this in the algorithm. And so I would actually say almost don't need to tell anyone that you've started a YouTube channel. Put it out there, and assuming it's a topic people are interested in, the world of YouTube viewers will find it, because they will search for it. So depending on, for a lot of experts who are talking about educational content, your traffic will come from search. It'll be coming from people entering a particular query and then you appearing near the top of the search results. And so the title of your video ends up being really important, but then making sure that the actual video relates very closely to the title. Now, there are other approaches where people are doing more lifestyle content. They're doing vlogging content, day in the life, where really they want people to follow them and every single one of their videos via subscriptions, and therefore on the homepage, their content will appear regularly. Now, with experts, there may be certain expert topics where people want to keep coming back to you for more and more, but there may well be cases where actually there's only one or two of your videos that are relevant to any one or two people, and then there's a different one or two people who find the other videos interesting. So I wouldn't worry so much about saying, oh my god, I need to build a community very quickly. Let it take time, but make sure that you're seeing people coming through to your content from search, because then at least that you're dialed into the types of things people are looking for on the platform.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. The Bay HQ has a podcast, but we're so much more than that. So if you want to find out about all of the events we've got going on, all the different ways you can meet each other, as well as resources to help you build the business of your dreams, then check out the link in the show notes. Sign up to our newsletter, where you get a weekly roundup, which we like to call the Bay Letter, that will keep you in the loop. If you want to help us out, the best thing you can possibly do is sign up to our newsletter and share it with your friends. So that's enough from me now. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, because it's interesting, like you said there, where I think for a long time people considered the number of followers as a major metric, right? But what you're saying there is if somebody's only ever interested in one or two of your videos, then they're unlikely to actually follow you. All your traffic is actually coming from search. And you see it sometimes, you actually see like channels with hundreds of thousands, millions of subscribers, but their views, the average video isn't very high. And it almost looks worse, right? It's like, why did none of your people care about this? And I guess it's a challenge for people, especially later on when they try to do pivots. But it's interesting, like you said, that so if you're starting out on YouTube, the real thing you want to be looking out for is that search. It's like, if you're an expert and you're doing educational content as opposed to vlogging and lifestyle, obviously one part of that is the title. But let's say you're doing a topic about like I'm trying to think of a good topic related to health here.
No, I was going to say how to check your breast for symptoms, signs of breast cancer.
Yeah, and let's say there's already 100 videos that's on that topic already. And how do you then, if you want to create content around that area, how do you make your video stand out? Or how do you potentially increase the likelihood people click on your video? So obviously you've got the thumbnail and the title. But if there's already other content there, like if experts are worried about saturation, how do you enter an industry with maybe there's already quite a few creators?
Yeah, so herein lies a challenge, because realistically, there's a very limited shop window that you have for yourself to be discovered, and really it is title, thumbnail, and then your channel name. It's your little channel icon. So if people are able to see that in the search results, then fine. It's those signals, and so those things become really important. but then also making sure that when people do click on that video, that the content is true to the title and the thumbnail is important, because that will then maximize the retention on that video. And the signals that YouTube are really using are around the likes of watch time. It's less about the number of views, and so watch time is critical. So making a video which is then compelling from start to end is the real challenge, and knowing when to end. You don't have to prolong the video for longer than it needs to be. So yeah, I would say you've got that limited real estate in terms of title, thumbnail, your channel name, your little icon when it comes up in search results, and then it's so if you can identify some topic areas that you can serialize, that will then help you get differentiated. I would say collaborations where you are bringing interesting people to your videos can differentiate you again. And so, I think that those are a couple of areas that can be helpful in terms of differentiation. But it is a challenge. There is a lot of competition out there on the platform, less so in some of those expert areas. That's why, when we go back to that context of as an expert, why should you get onto YouTube? Because actually, there's some topics that are really, really underserved. There's more than enough comedy content, football content, entertainment content to last a lifetime, music content, etc. But when you really niche down into astrophysics, into like the treatments of breast cancer, into the very, very like woodworking, etc. All those different sort of things where you really need the expertise, the qualifications. There is less content available, and so there's a real opportunity there for people to sort of differentiate themselves relatively easily.
So if we do this almost as a live workshop now, right? So this video is going up on YouTube. The title I'm thinking in my head is like how to start and grow on YouTube as an expert, or something along those lines, right? Now, the challenge is for a kind of podcast episode like this is that at the beginning, you can either do kind of a short thing at the beginning, which is kind of a highlight from this episode. What I did here is I went straight into and we're live. Here's who we have. So straight away mentioning you're obviously your head of UK Health at YouTube. So somebody clicking on this knows you've got credibility. And how do you get that retention for this kind of video? Like, how would you, if I was going to change this to try and really optimize for search, what would I do differently, or how would that work?
Yeah, so I would say you would want a really catchy title that people are going to be intrigued by, feel like they're going to learn something from, and are somewhat shocked by or surprised by. So, you could do something like why YouTube is desperate for experts, or, YouTube experts, YouTube needs you, or something along those lines. So then you're also calling out, you're also having a bit of a niche in the title. As you were saying before with your podcasts, they can sometimes be about such a range of different topics. So interview with Vishaal Virani would be, an example of a terrible title. So you really want to niche down, and so that would be one thing. So people are clicking on it because they want to learn about that. Then you're absolutely right with the actual intro, getting straight into it, saying there are a lack of experts sharing their content, sharing their insights and knowledge on YouTube, and I've got someone on the inside who's going to help us understand what you can do as an expert to get on YouTube. That sort of like lay it out really from the first second, exactly what people are going to get from this video. And therefore you've hooked them in, they've heard that and they're like, so this is actually exactly what the title and the thumbnail were talking about, versus, so BHQ, welcome, etc. And now, pros and cons, because as you are then developing a following and you have subscribers and you have people who've become familiar with your nice intros, with the lilt of your voice at the start, and that sort of thing, then maybe they quite like that familiarity. So I'm not saying this is the be all and end all, but it depends. If you are then as an expert, let's say, creating a video which not everyone will want to click on, but people who are learning about a specific topic will want to click on, and you think you want to get straight to the point. And I think that you then want to hit them with the most interesting point first. So it's like, what can you what can you as an expert do on YouTube? So as opposed to the, what is the problem? There's so many topics where there isn't really an expert or whatever on YouTube. That's all fine, but really what people want to know is what can you do as an expert to get yourself onto the platform? What are the nitty gritty tips? So that's one thing. And then I would say like you would want to chapter it. So you would want to say, well, here are the 4 or 5 questions that I think are really being answered in this video, and I'm going to split that into sections, so therefore people can literally jump and then put that in the description, each one. So be aware that people may not be watching your whole video, they're jumping to X question or Y question, and actually you can see in your retention curves where the peaks are, and they will sometimes correlate with certain questions that clearly are most interesting. That you might say, oh, this third question that we focused on seemed to be most interesting for the viewers. Now we're going to double down on that, and the next interview is only going to talk about the third question with another expert, or I'm going to create a couple of shorts based on clips from that third question, the answer to the third question. So I would do some things like that. I would, I think that, and then in terms of the thumbnail, I would do something like, big writing saying expert question mark, YouTube needs you, or whatever. But if you've already done that in the title, say, so something like, here's YouTube in a room, and then here's all the experts outside the room. It's like, we need you in this room type of a thing. So, something complementary to the title, but not exactly the same as the title. If it's purely like mirroring, that's not interesting. Viewers not learning anything new. I would do big, bold contrast in terms of the colors on the thumbnail as well. I would do big icons, big writing, and maybe put someone's face on it. A face can sometimes help if it's relevant, but not always. You can put your logo on there, because if people have started to become familiar with your logo, you can put that as in one of the corners. Those are some of the things that I would maybe think about doing. Now, having said that, I've never created a YouTube video actually in my life, funnily enough. I spend my life talking to creators, so I'm absorbing secondhand what they're telling me and whatnot. But yeah, these are some of the things that could work. Don't blame me if it doesn't go viral, Amma, now. But I tried.
So let me redo the introduction now. Right, this is the last thing before we jump off. So let me try and keep a straight face first of all. So what you just said there was how we want to hook the viewers in straight away, right? So everyone thinks that YouTube is now, okay, wait, let's go again. So again, people watching this live, right? Lots of people think YouTube is just about comedians and cat videos, but YouTube is really focusing now on experts and how to get them involved. So if you're an expert, I'm talking to the guy who runs YouTube Health in the UK about what you can do in order to grow your channel and grow your audience in a successful way. So something along those lines, right? Obviously, that was just off the dome. But that would be a more compelling opening, you'd think, as opposed to.
And then I would just weave in the need there as well. Like people are searching. People are searching for a range of different topics. They are not finding the answers from experts. There's all sorts of people on YouTube creating content on XYZ, but where are the experts? The viewers are crying out for some more expertise, some more authoritativeness, and higher quality insight to address some of the search queries that they're entering. Something like that. But yeah, like a kind of Big Bang start. Say, why should you be listening to this? but at the same time, consistency is important, right? Because you see some of the vloggers out there and they like to have their thing like, my name's X and today we're going to talk about Y, and there's that familiarity that people have. So the beauty about it is it's all about experimenting, isn't it? Now, what you told me at the top of the episode is that with the likes of YouTube, and you're absolutely right, podcast discovery is not based on subscription to channels as much as it is searching for a particular topic. So in order to play into that, you might want to go down this road. But hey, you might say that actually you still have a good following on Apple, etc., where people like the Bay HQ and they are familiar with it. And so they're happy to listen whoever's on, in which case you can go with the standard intro, right? So it's kind of pros and cons in a way.
And also, I guess what we could do is we can have different introductions on the podcast version and the YouTube version, right? The YouTube version could have this more hook of like, this is what's happening. Whereas the podcast could be more, because people are subscribed to the podcast, they can have the familiar thing and they don't have that bit at the beginning that I just said. So yeah, I've got myself homework out of this episode, which doesn't usually happen. So I can have that. People obviously watching this channel, if you subscribe to us, which obviously you should subscribe to us on YouTube, then you can hopefully see that transition. You'll be able to see the impact of this conversation, what's had on the channel. And you can see the experimentation live, and you can see me making the mistakes as opposed to you having to make the mistakes, which is always more fun. So thank you so much today for coming on, Vishaal, and I've learned a lot myself. Who are 3 British nations that you'd love to shout out that you think people should be paying attention to?
In keeping with the theme of kind of health creators, I am going to go with a few people doing some fantastic stuff on YouTube. You've got Dr. Karan Rajan, who's dispelling so many myths that are out there in the media about medical topics. You've got Dr. Asmine Chowdhury, who has got a fantastic channel, but is also just such a brilliant community builder out there to help everyone who's getting started on YouTube. And then you've also got Lavina Mehta, who's got some fantastic fitness content on her channel as well. So yeah, they're doing some great things.
So thank you so much for coming on. If people want to learn more about you and what you're up to, where should they go to? Where do you want to send them?
Health.youtube. If you want to know anything about YouTube health, there's all sorts of information on there. And then I'm always happy to chat to people who want to learn more about getting onto YouTube, getting into the big tech world, or whatever it might be that you want help with. You can catch me on LinkedIn as well.
And finally, as well, is there anything that you need help with? Anything that people can maybe reach out to you to help with?
I need more experts creating high quality any content on YouTube. I mean, my thing is health, but honestly, we do genuinely need more experts on YouTube. And so I'd love for you guys all to think about starting a channel, think about the value that it could bring to the respective businesses you're running or the respective careers that you're embarking upon. And I think you'll find it a really enjoyable journey, but also really valuable for the viewers out there who are looking for more expert content.
So again, thank you so much for coming on. Take care.
Take care. Thanks, Emma. Thanks.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us. And we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes a world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission. And you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.